The relative importance of various drivers of economic growth and prosperity has evolved over time, and for a growing number of countries, innovation in its many dimensions is emerging as a new leading factor. So let me start by posing the central question of this brief presentation. What are the factors, policies, and institutions which best contribute to boost a country's capacity for innovation? What are the secrets of success? Why is it that some countries seem to be able to do so much better than others in the creative use of knowledge to allow individuals, and by extension corporations and nation states, to go farther, faster, deeper, and cheaper in sustaining rising levels of well-being for their populations? In building the Innovation Capacity Index, we have assumed that these factors are many and spread over a range of areas. Some of them refer to institutional features that broadly determine how resources are located in a society. Are property rights appropriately safeguarded? Does the judicial system operate in a system of accountability and transparency? Is management of the public finances responsible? This latter point is very important because debt burdens greatly limit the ability of governments to respond to needs in key areas, such as education, training, infrastructure, all of which contribute to enhance innovation. What is the pace and the depth of the adoption of new technologies? Is the regulatory framework intelligent or laden with excessive bureaucracy and red tape? The relative importance of these factors varies across countries, depending on their stage of development and the political regime under which policies are being implemented. The particular paths chosen and the priority areas which should be the focus of policies will clearly vary if the country is a rich industrial country operating under a full democratic regime, or if it is a poor country struggling to make the transition from an authoritarian form of government to establish the basic institutions and practices of a working democracy. These factors also shift over time, reflecting changes in the global economic environment and the impact of science and technology on public policy. Let me say a few words about the importance of a handful of these factors in determining key elements of a country's capacity to innovate. Education has emerged as a key driver of innovation. As the global economy becomes more and more complex, it is necessary to upgrade the level of training of the labor force, to facilitate the adoption of the latest technologies, to ensure integration to the global economy. In the United States, for instance, 40 years ago, a high school diploma could easily be a ticket to join the middle class. Today, in the absence of additional training and qualifications, a high school diploma is simply a ticket to poverty and to a life of limitations. There are rich rewards to countries that do this. Korea, Taiwan, and Israel, for instance, have been able to create a powerful machinery of innovation, aided sometimes by creative, active collaboration between the universities and industry, to ensure that graduates will be endowed with the skills that will allow them to quickly join the cutting edge of the labor force. Let me emphasize here higher education. Coverage of primary education has increased everywhere in the world, including in Africa, but this is no longer good enough. Countries need to do both. They need to improve with respect to their histories, but they also need to look horizontally at what other countries are doing, lest they fall behind. We need to do a great deal more to improve the efficiency of public spending. There is, as you know, at the moment, a very important debate on the future of the globalization process, and it seems to be converging to a central idea. To mitigate the adverse effects and to enhance its positive features, it will be necessary to manage the globalization process better. What does this actually mean in practice? It means reorienting government spending priorities so as to put greater emphasis on the protection of the poor and other disadvantaged groups in society, making sure that there are in place programs for temporarily displaced workers in declining industries, as this seems to be one of the inevitable consequences of a rapidly changing global economy, including those aimed at training and providing new skills. Boosting the share of education budgets to broaden the range of opportunities available to women is likely to be a central component of this, given the overwhelming scientific evidence linking female education and literacy to reductions in mortality rates for children, fertility rates, and levels of poverty. The private sector in much of the developing world, and in several rich countries as well, labors under the onerous weight of mindless levels of bureaucracy and red tape, which are erecting unnecessary obstacles to the creation of new businesses In this respect, I direct your attention to the World Bank's Doing Business report, which captures several dimensions of the way in which sometimes governments, through excessive regulation, can dampen entrepreneurial creativity, which is so essential to create an environment supportive of innovation. The tragic irony of this subject is that these countries with the greatest need for entrepreneurship and private sector development are those that put the greatest obstacles to the creation of new enterprises. 20 years ago, there was very little debate about the role of corruption in the development process. It was certainly a taboo subject in the corridors of the IMF and the World Bank, where there was a tendency to separate technical judgments about the intricacies of macroeconomic policy from value judgments about the domestic political dimension. So both organizations, for instance, had no qualms about lending money to corrupt dictators. Today, happily, there is a broad understanding that good governance, openness, and transparency are key drivers of innovation. And we do not need to frame this debate in a moral, ethical, or religious terms. It is enough to see it as an economic efficiency issue. Where corruption is rampant, companies and individuals will see paying taxes as a bad business proposition. In contrast, in the northern countries, with the lowest levels of corruption in the world and the highest tax burdens, everybody pays their taxes because the benefits of doing so are immediately obvious. Superb infrastructure, a highly trained labor force, an extensive social safety net. Let me conclude by inviting you to read the Innovation for Development Report 2009-2010, which is just published by Paul Craig Macmillan. In addition to presenting the Innovation Capacity Index, the report has a number of research articles from a distinguished group of scientists and academics illustrating a broad range of topical issues in innovation. From why is our current patent system so inefficient and why is it undermining innovation, to an analysis of the role of technology and innovation for addressing climate change, to a discussion of how to enable innovative entrepreneurship through business incubation, to the key challenges underlying the current global search for the highly skilled, to the question of how can innovation be more inclusive to stimulate more sustainable and equitable patterns of economic growth and development. I hope you will enjoy this report. I think you will find it a very valuable tool for public policy. Thank you.